This is Pradeep from Sydney, wishing you a very happy good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever it is in your part of the day. This is GCC episode 17. And what is GCC? GCC is the international engagement platform for alumni, including especially from IIT Delhi. But it is building up as a platform for all professionals to connect up with each other. As usual, we bring to you a fluffy story. And for that story, I have to take you back 40 years. And that reminds me of my own time when I finished my BTech. I finished my BTech in 1977, when possibly some of you in the audience today were not even born. So when I go back 40 years, all I can recollect is the macro environment in India. Just in 77, IBM had left India. Of course, there are different connotations whether they left or were asked to leave, but that aside, there were fundamental changes happening in the Indian business environment. What we know as a many billion-dollar industry in terms of software exports, nobody knew about it at that particular point in time. Why to talk of software exports? I think even the concept of what IT is was still emerging. I mean, I remember in IIT Delhi, we used to be punching cards over there, but we used to go to the computer center because it used to be air conditioned, not for anything else. So, what happened at that particular point in time? Today, it is very easy when I look back and I see where the Indian IT industry has become the center of the world. In fact, in one of my articles that I wrote for the CIO magazine, and this I'm talking about 5 to 6 years back, I had written over there. At that particular point in time, IBM had 540,000 people globally, and in India they had 140,000 people. Capgemini out of 100,000 people had 45,000 people. Accenture out of 300,000 people had 100,000 people in India. And what I wrote was that if anybody has to be successful in the IT industry, they have to know Indian national culture, apart from the corporate culture and the industry culture and so on and so forth. So it is very easy to talk about all this now. But what happened 40 years back and in emerging trends? The challenge is that if you are too early, you run out of resources. If you are too late, the opportunity is lost. So how do you foresee the trends? But not only how do you foresee the trends, but how do you recognize the opportunity, convert it into a business? Not only a business, but scaling it up globally and then sustaining it over 35 years, creating shareholder wealth for hundreds and thousands of people. This is a fabulous story of 4 young people at that particular point in time. And to introduce those 4 people, I will ask one of my good friends and one of those 4 people to kickstart how we recount the journey. And I have lots of questions, and I'm sure that you also have lots of questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us give a big round of applause to Yogesh Andlay, one of those 4 people, one of that group, as I call it, the Trendsetters group, the multi-billion-dollar Trendsetters group. With that, Yogesh, I will ask you to introduce the other 3 people as well as yourself before we come down and have an interesting chat. And I put these guys on the spot. I want to do that. So over to you, Yogesh.
Thank you, Pradeep, and good evening, good morning, good day to everyone whoever has joined this session today. I'm so happy, so glad to introduce such close friends whom I connected way back in 74. That was the year I joined IIT. I was in Nilgiri hostel. So Arun's family, we connected in 74. Vishnu joined us in 75. Arun Shekhar joined us in 75. And almost we have been together since then. The journey has been phenomenally exciting. Also, I wouldn't hesitate to say there have been roller coaster moments also in between, but an amazing journey. So let me start with Vishnu. So Vishnu, when he came in, we knew.
Yogesh, just 1 second. There seems to be some sound distortion coming.
Is that so? So.
Yeah. There's a slight kind of an echo. I don't know what it is.
Okay, let me change my microphone to a different combination and see if it works. If that works better. All right.
So is this mic better?
Absolutely better. Absolutely better.
Okay. So I've taken instead of using the.
So this, by the way, this is called innovation.
Headphone mic. So let me introduce Vishnu to you first. So when I met Vishnu first, came in as a young fresh guy coming from Maharashtra, and what we knew him as कि ये अजंता की cave से आया है. He is his village. He came from Ajanta village. So we sorry Vishnu, I hope you don't mind, but बिल्कुल घाटी मराठी अजंता की केव से. और अरुण शेखर was a Spider-Man. If you want to spot Arun Shekhar in Jwalamukhi hostel, you need to look at the ceiling of the corridor. और अरुण शेखर ऊपर कहीं मिलेगा हमें. So that was a starting point. And of course, Arun's elder brother Shailendra Jain, many of us would know here, Pradeep's batchmate, both Pradeep and Pradeep Kapoor. We connected with each other very quickly. Now that was a time, and Arun, of course, would visit us in hostel. We would go to their house, spend Holi and Diwali together, and a lot of other fun moments and great moments at that time. From a professional journey, let me give you a little bit of introduction now. The professional aspect. Arun leads Intellect design. Vishnu leads Nucleus Software exports. Arun Shekhar leads NukeSoft, and I have a company called Nucleus Software Engineers. All four independent companies, well, absolutely maintained, managed independently operated, but it's grown out of that common seed which we started sometime in 80s. So I think I'll stop here so that I give an opportunity to Pradeep to ask questions, to probe us deep, and maybe try and extract the juice out of this conversation.
So guys, it's $100 for every easy question. Okay. So now let me kickstart the journey. First of all four of you are from different batches. Somebody is from 1980, somebody is from 1979, and when I talk about the batch, is the year of passing out. Then somebody is from IIT, somebody is from Delhi College of Engineering. So how did the four of you kind of get together? And let me ask this question to Arun Jain. Arun, if you want to unmute yourself.
That's right. Thank you very much for this platform where I'm just rubbing shoulder with your elite IIT Delhi group. We met because of my elder brother, Shailendra Jain. And that's a starting point of exchanging notes or enjoying some weekend evenings on the tea shops in IIT Delhi. So moving away from the home, and since I was the day scholar, so it provided me the opportunity of enjoying the partial hostel life during that time. So that's a starting point of the journey.
So in other words, तुम अपने कॉलेज में नहीं जाते थे, but you were spending more time over here. Oh man, अब मुझे समझ आया. Now I know what is the secret mantra of your success.
DC, there are just two hostels, which is just in the part of the same building. So we never had a campus. So IIT took over DC campus in 1962. So
So M&A actually was even active at that particular point in time. No,
Yeah.
jokes apart, let me
Yeah.
go across to Vishnu. Vishnu, while I can understand that, in the formative years, you had all this bonding and norming, storming happening, but were you guys all very studious, or were you kind of fatrus, or what exactly, what were you doing in IIT? Vishnu, you are on mute. Vishnu, you are on mute.
Sorry, I forgot about it. I said I'm talking about myself. Clearly, the second variety, Pradeep.
Oh man, I knew it. I knew this is the hallmarks of a success. Even Microsoft dropped out of uni, but you guys did at least finish your degree. Now, let me go across to Arun Shekhar. Arun, you went to IIM Ahmedabad.
Right.
Now you are, I would say IITD, IIMA. I mean, that is like a typical corporate career. So
Yes.
where is the corporate career, and how did you kind of blend with these guys?
I think it was very interesting because we became friends. All four of us were good friends during the time of IIT. Vishnu and myself used to work together for something called Hindi Samiti over there, and we used to spend a lot of time in those activities. With Yogesh, I used to do work for the IIT magazine. And with Arun, we had a very good chilling friendship.
Was it
He
over
used to very often drop into the hostel, and we used to enjoy evenings together. As you said, as he told you that he used to spend a lot of time in the hostels. So we used to spend a lot of time together. And that's where I started enjoying that company. Now, as you rightly said, IIT Delhi, I was not the total fatru, not the total studious, somewhere mix of the two. Okay. And that's how I also ended up reaching to IIM Ahmedabad, did a reasonable scale up from there. And I joined Asian Paints. It is true that I did move to corporate life, as you said. I joined Asian Paints, which was known for high quality management at that point of time and very high level of IT in those days. I spent 7 years learning or using that time to learn a lot in terms of applying basics of management into a real life. And then by the time I was maturing there, I learned and I found out my friends, all three of them, they were together and they were trying to promote a company, Nucleus Software Workshop, which was doing reasonably well. And that's where I joined them together.
Interesting. Let me go across to Yogesh. Yogesh, at that particular point in time, IT was emerging in India. So how did you guys kind of, get into IT or ICT or whatever you may want to call it? What was the driving force, or what was the motivation?
Oh, I think it was, I would say, we were looking, when I graduated in 79, Vishnu at that time was in his final year. Vishnu, Arun, Shekhar, both were in their final year. Arun was studying in Delhi College of Engineering. And I was looking for some work in Delhi. And I happened to, we were good friends with Jalan and Vash, who were our seniors from our hostel. And while they were in college, they were in hostel, they had started doing data processing activities on a commercial basis as students. So they had projects from several companies. I remember there was a Provident Fund project from BSF and a project from a publishing house in Daryaganj. So we would, sort of do some odd jobs for them, like sometimes data punching or data scrutiny and things of that kind, a little bit of programming or something or other we would do for them. And when they graduated, they had set up a company called IDP, International Data Processing Company Limited, one of the most advanced computer systems of that time, a multi-user PDP 1170, top of the line in its category. They had installed in Delhi. And I approached them. They offered me that I can do some work with them. And that's how my journey to the field of IT started. And then when Vishnu graduated in 80, we all just started together. We just started working something odd here and there, some programming jobs, some data preparation jobs. So I started a data preparation unit at that time in 80s, which of course intellectually was not satisfying for me. I gave it to somebody else. And I started indulging in some software development, system support. Arun graduated in 83, and that's where we would meet often. We would chat about what we could be doing. Arun had a green card to go to US, but for his final year project, he worked on a small basic compiler for a microprocessor board at that time. Vishnu had learned COBOL, so he would also indulge in some programming with us here and there. And he had also done his MTech in systems and management at that time. So Arun developed a 2K ROM, which we took to Hindustan Instruments Limited. And I think that was our first commercial sale, though I don't know who got the check, and but that was our first commercial sale, I would say.
Fabulous, fabulous. Now let me kind of go across to Arun Jain. Arun, I am a mentor at so many different places. I always advise my people that you please find your passion and follow your passion. But I also realize that passion doesn't always pay the bills. And I can see that, all you guys were very passionately involved into, delving yourself into some form or shape in computing. So, was it all hunky dory? Or did you kind of start minting money from day one, or is it sometimes also counting pennies at the end of the day?
So I think we are not that lucky that investment circle was there. So we didn't have any dependency on investor circle. So today, very quickly, you jump onto that. So that time, one scooter, we had a Chetak scooter, and one, I think, motorcycle Vishnu had. So those are the assets, and we are using government quarter to set up. So the cost are zero cost infrastructure. So that's a kind of the first check we got after 7 months, Madhav. I think first 7 months, we didn't get a single payment from any client, whatever we were working till 2 o'clock in the night, but there was no payment coming in, but we're living with the family, so it's okay. Survival was there. So, but I had a green card. The idea was that instead of going to US, as we mentioned, that somewhere in my family, my one of the brother-in-law just mentioned to me that, oh, please come to US. Everything is US. US is the final destination, and you must come with a green card as soon as you pass out. I somewhere at that point converted to rebel that let me do something, whatever is possible in India. So if my father could do something, starting from clerical job in 1943 in government post and telegraph, can we do something when we can start a class 1 job? So by mitigating our boundary conditions, we just, I had a job offer from telco when I passed out, and which is a natural cause to go to telco, but decided to stay in Delhi with Vishnu, and we set up a small partnership letterhead called International Information System. So dreams were big. We always call International Information System when the company was a partnership company of 3 people, and written a letter to 10 microprocessor companies, HIL, Vinitix, and out of 10 letters, we got 4 responses. So now in a sales lead generation process, if we discuss today, it's a 40% response of a simple letterhead shows that, yes, there must be some big demand of this kind of a processor which could be there. And that encourages, let's work it out. We didn't make much money out of that, but I think that was somewhere the beginning of seed that this is a place where opportunity could be there. And then Vishnu's success in sales and marketing, his business acumen in sales and marketing helped in getting the first contract from Thapar Group. Maybe Vishnu can share afterwards.
So let me move across to Vishnu now. Vishnu, how did the word nucleus come about?
It's a very interesting question, Pradeep. Just before that, I would have to give you the small input on how did we get the first contract
Yes.
for software development.
Yes.
So this was year 83, and as Arun mentioned, we got 40% success rate on our first campaign, and then we also got a reference from Jalan for software development work at Ballarpur Industries Limited, and that's where we so Jalan was kind enough to introduce us to Ballarpur Industries, for whom they were doing work, for whom International Data Processing Company was doing work, but they used to do only data processing, and they never wanted to get into software development. So they introduced us to Ballarpur Industries, and that's where we bumped into we can say our first customer, then subsequently mentor, guide, philosopher, Mr. Ram Bhagwat. And he had done his engineering from Maharashtra, and then he went to IIT Kanpur, and then after that he had joined IBM, and then post IBM, post 77, exit of IBM, he had joined Ballarpur. And as he was migrating Ballarpur's systems from IBM to what was called ORG-80, he needed some programming support, and we were readily available. He was very kind, very generous. We had offered that we'll do a trial job, which he said, there's no need, I have confidence in you. Now you can imagine what it would have done to our confidence, his saying that. And then so for 3 years we were doing work for Ballarpur, and around that time he had decided to join Citibank, and that is where he felt that this has to be a dedicated company to Citibank, and he wanted a new company, new name to come into being. And that's how, from International Information Systems, which was a partnership firm, we created Nucleus Software Workshop Private Limited. And Nucleus meaning we wanted to be the core of whatever we wanted to be, at the core of whatever we were doing. So that's how the brief history of Nucleus Software.
Fabulous. Let me go across to Arun Shekhar. Arun, there were 4 of you. Were you
Yes.
kind of stepping into each other's toes? Or what was the distribution of responsibilities? How did you work together as a team?
I think when we were small, a team was very small. When I opted to join this team, we were about 35, 36 people in all. And at that point of time, it was like a role everybody chooses to take whenever you see something, falling in, something being, you feel that this is missing. So I pick up this role. And that is how it used to be. Like Vishnu, if he all the time looks into the marketing or getting contacts, if Arun is working on projects and falling short of his capacity to handle so many things, I would fill in. Yogesh would fill in for handling HR if we are not able to focus on those things. So there was no sort of stepping on each other's toes. It was more like you see that there is a slight gap here, somebody needs to pay attention, you fill in there. And that is how we were working all the time.
Well,
There was, in fact, there was no formal role definitions. Okay. At that point of time, like you do this and all. There was nothing. You just feel that this is what needs to be done. So get into it.
But you see,
That's
the
what it is.
point to be noted is that there has to be a very good understanding and relationship between the four of you to come to that kind of a
Yes.
situation, you see. Because otherwise, because what you are saying is that really depending on what was the need, everybody
Yes.
kind of, fitted in and did the job without thinking of too much
Yes.
about it,
That's right. And that's why exactly right. Yeah.
Very good. Let me now go across to Yogesh. Yogesh, did you at that particular point in time think that a couple of years down the road this could be a multi-billion-dollar entity, wealth creation and all that, or what was it? I know that you all wanted to dream big. That is fair enough, and that I would also strongly recommend to everybody going on their own journey. But what did you think? What the future was like?
Well, the dreams were always big. I mean, we were not in terms of, I would say, number of dollars, but definitely to create a very long-term institution. So how do you build a company which survives for a century or something like that? So those are the kind of dreams we had, and of course. I remember once we sat down and we started thinking about what kind of a target do we have, or what kind of vision or objective do we have? हम कितनी बड़ी company बनाएंगे? And I think Vishnu had come up at that point of time with some number. Vishnu, क्या number था वो? Do you remember, Arun? Because that was the first time somebody mentioned a big number amongst us.
Yeah, that's right. I think we were sitting in Mahabalipuram and having a conversation that what could be the size of the company. The two conversations happened. One, when we rated ourselves against TCS, we are number 8 and TCS is number 1 in way back in 88 or 89. And second time in Mahabalipuram, when we rated, 3 of us were there and we said, okay, we should be 10 crore company, 100 crore company or 1000 crore company. I think Vishnu took a lead of towards 1000 crore. I don't know whether 500 crore or 600 crore, but that number was too big for 92, 93 when we were just 2-3 crore company to even think about something 500, 600. I don't know the exact number, but yeah, it was a intimidating number for us.
Got it. So on the same path, let me ask you, Arun, that you see today we talk in terms of services, apps, infrastructure, and so many sub-segments. Now, did you have any of these classifications in mind? Apart from the fact that you got your first breakthrough in Citibank, was that the driving? So was it more of a tactical play? How did the evolution happen on focus on financial services?
Two things happened, I think. First of all, customer focus was our core competency. If you look at it, we were working for Ballarpur Industries and is a single customer, and we are comfortable with single customer. Citibank was second customer, it was comfortable. So we didn't want to dilute our focus on customer delivery and customer centricity to create a more impact. So the question used to be asked at that point of time, are you over dependent on one customer? If they throw it out, what will happen? Our answer used to be that it's a mutual dependency. When you are delivering the solution to the customer to that level, where he is equally dependent on you rather than I am dependent on him. That was a strategy which you adopted on customer side. On technology side, we adopted the strategy of the cutting edge. We were the first people to write a complete credit card system on Oracle database way back in 1989 when Oracle version 2.0 was there, and it has as many defects as software could have today, where we didn't able to know whether it's a Oracle defect or a software defect. And that too on a prime machine, not on a Solaris machine, didn't come out at that time. And we built up a first distributed systems to create a capacity on Solaris in 92. We are the first people to build up a distributed computing capacity way back in 1992 when the distributed computing was not even conceptualized. And then we are running a 4C system with IIT Research Lab in Chennai. We could build up a common computer command control system to run tens of servers running a different applications and running a single EOD with a single command and control. So that cutting edge technology, which has given a leverage to us, and banking always need cutting edge technology, it was a natural choice to remain in a financial sector. And then we never defined in one of the Lakshyas, which is our common pattern, where Lakshya is a session where we meet once in a year with all the employees, everybody in the company participate in Lakshya. When we defined BFSI as a word, we said what we want to be focusing on. We said BFSI. No, BFSI was not the word anywhere in the world. It used to be called FSI everywhere. Only in India is called BFSI. And after 5 years, we find TCS is also saying we are also in BFSI. Now that established our credibility that we spotted a element called BFSI, which is we changed the vocabulary since we were not knowing that worldwide it's called FS. Financial services.
Fabulous. Let me go across to Vishnu. Vishnu, so is it fair to say that technology was the source of competitive advantage, so as to say? And now we go fast forward a couple of years, and what we find is that the organization is now growing up very rapidly. So you've been incubated, so as to say, you are in the scale up phase. Now, what were the challenges and opportunities at that particular point in time? And also, you see, you are evolving from an ownership driven structure to a more corporatized structure. So, how did you manage the transition?
I
For
think
you, Vishnu?
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think our decision to create intellectual property based out of India, that was a very important decision which we took in the year 94, 95, where we wanted to, start owning our intellectual till then we were typically a services outfit. So we wanted to start creating our own intellectual property. And that's where we also decided to come out with an IPO. And Yogesh played a very important role in coming out with that IPO. And that's where we created our first board. And thanks to that board, this corporatization started happening. And also, the proper structure, the regularity of meetings, planning of yearly plans, all those things started coming into the play. And most important was the fact that using our own intellectual property, now we would be able to support some Indian businesses, and that is what gives us 25 years later so much of satisfaction that we have played a role in within quotes import substitution, which can in some manner be when taken forward can in some manner be beginning of what we are talking today in terms of creation of a fab in the country to avoid import of lakhs of crores of electronics.
So I have to commend you guys on this, that thinking about national priorities while you are scaling with the business, and also having pride in what you are doing for the country has been also a very strong motivation, because a lot of you had opportunity to go overseas also. That's number one. But also having the foresight to focus on intellectual capital ownership, which is as a sustainable platform for future growth. That's great to hear that. But now I want to go to Arun Shekhar. Arun Shekhar, in today's world, what happens is when you incubate a startup, you are able to get money, and then later on you got angels, you got VCs, you got Ps, you got seed round, you got X, Y, Z. What did you have at your point in time? How did you manage the financing of all this?
I think one of the important things we all had was passion and a very close, commitment towards that dream. I mean, whether it was a number like 500 crores or 600 crores, which looks funny at that point of time, it looks like lofty talks. Okay. But nevertheless, there was a commitment towards it that we will all work together. We will not leave anything behind in our, abilities to achieve this. And one of the other things was, yes, at that point of time, there were bigger challenges than only talking about capital or anything of that nature. The fact that nobody understood that software industry means something. Nobody's, I recollect those times when a lot of people you talk to, they don't appreciate that you are trying to do some software which will work for banks. If you recollect, in 1980s, 80s, the Indian banks would not even talk about software.
Yes.
Okay, Citibank was one of the rare gems who talked about developing IT or having some sort of automation. So in that environment, to commit to something like this, it was a very important factor. And more to say about the challenges in an environment where India was not even considered a meaningful player.
But that still doesn't answer the question in terms of the capital requirements. Today,
Yes.
there are so many financing. How did you was it always trying to be on positive cash flow? Or how did you manage did you get funding from anybody?
No, we did not use any funding. In fact, one of the most difficult tasks was managing cash flow, and a lot of it when I was together with the Chennai group, I was there. We used to have a very good relationship with our customers, and I must openly admit this part that even the customers were very forthcoming in helping us at times when there was a little bit of dip in the cash flow, because they would not only make sure that the payments are done in promptly in everything, but also they would ensure that if there was a need, they would provide for each kind of situation a loan or advance anytime. In fact, our first asset Arun would talk about, which we bought, was an electronic typewriter, a second-hand electronic typewriter that was acquired through the first payment. Okay, but nevertheless, all our assets, when we started building up assets like premise and all these facilities, we started getting a lot of support from Citibank itself, who was our client. And that was one major advantage we had. Citibank was not only a good professional set of people, but they were very supportive as friends and even as a customer.
Got it.
So we did have enough of difficult times when the cash flow would trouble us, but we did manage them well.
Let me go across to Vishnu. Vishnu, today the groups are very highly international. I recognize that there was a lot of interest that you contribute towards the Indian economy. But when did you start thinking about going global, and how did that global journey take off?
As far as that is concerned, Pradeep, as Arun told you, the name of the partnership firm was International Information Systems. So,
but यार वो तो मैंने भी अपनी कंपनी का नाम ग्लोबल माइंडसेट रखा है.
हो तो रहा है ग्लोबल माइंडसेट.
ग्लोबल माइंडसेट तो है ना. You are actually globally set. The fact is that we are right now talking in how many time zones, I don't know. But literally we are in all the 24 hours.
That is correct. That is correct. Yeah. So what I was getting at was, look today, you see the evolution as I look back, and I remember my days at IBM, that the real kind of growth in globalization of services happened in, early 2000s. And also, today we are looking at commoditization of services and IT services. But when I look back at mid 90s and all that, to start kind of looking at global journey, to look at labor arbitrage, not as a labor arbitrage, but as a service value proposition, it's very commendable. So that's why I want to kind of probe a little. That
let me come in here, Pradeep.
Yes, Yogesh. Yes,
Yogesh. I'm going to request Yogesh to do the talking about his trip to New York. I mean, his stay at New York in 87, Yogesh, or 88?
Before we go to New York,
Huh.
I remember, you see, we keep in mind that we started working for Citibank in India, and Citibank was absolutely far ahead of any other bank at that point of time. With just 4 branches in the country, they had ambitions to reach out to millions of customers. So technology was the only way they could have done it to manage the operations. And they needed a very reliable technology developer for them who is committed to them. I mean, Jerry Rao used to say that it's not even a husband-wife relationship, it's a mistress relationship, you know, Nucleus and Citibank.
Love it. Love it.
So, you know, as we were developing systems for Citibank in India, we were also getting recognition across the Citibank community globally.
Okay.
So we would have visitors from Singapore, we had visitors from New York, and you know, it's looking back, it sorts of gives you goosebumps today. In our 1-bedroom flat office in South Extension Part 2, we hosted senior vice presidents from USA.
Wow.
Four
They
Mercedes.
wanted to see what we are doing.
Four
You
Mercedes
remember,
car
Arun?
in that suite.
Yeah. So would someone like to share that story? So, you know, that's how we started getting recognition. We were not getting big money, but we were getting big recognition. Just to share with you, Citibank Pakistan, we had gone and delivered banking systems to them in '89. Vishnu spent many
God.
weeks in Karachi during those days, and we developed systems. We went to Singapore, demonstrated what we were doing. Vishnu went to Jakarta, demonstrated systems that we were doing. So, you know, we had a group which we could go and show what we are doing. And because the work was cutting edge, it didn't matter the technology, but the domain and the kind of solutions that were being developed and the cost and speed at which they were being developed, we were definitely getting noticed, number one. Number two, we were also conscious that we have to focus a lot on quality and building a good organization. So I remember in sometime around early 90s, we were approached by the German embassy, their group here, and they said they're inviting some experts from Germany to do evaluation of capacity of Indian software industry. So they will be doing some capacity maturity model, that SAI model that you have. So in early 90s, 5 or 6 of us participated in that study.
CMM, SEI, CMM, Carnegie Mellon.
CMM SEI. And we also got trained to be CMM assessors. So I became a certified assessor at that time. We found there was only one company in India which was CMM level 3, close to level 3, not exactly level 3. There was a small company in Noida Export Processing Zone developing systems from a Japanese company on hardware, on system software, compilers, and things of that kind. Nucleus, our company, was something like 2.54 or some number of that order, and which meant that in India we were amongst the best of the software companies which had repeatable processes, which could, I mean, if you talk to 10 people in the company that what are the process steps that you follow for software development, you would get identical answers. So, you know, that was a focus, and I must, you know, give credit to everybody who was working with us. We didn't have formal organization, we didn't have formal division, but the whole group, they were about, Manju was also a part of it, part of us at that time. She had joined us as a programmer in '86. So everybody together was group fun. And at the same time, we were also conscious that we have to build an organization for a long time. So we started spending a lot of time, investing a lot of time and efforts and money in learning from others. So in early 90s, 89 or so, 89, 90, something like that, we had iShare Consultancy Services giving us gyan on total quality management. How do you do visioning? How do you do mission? How do you do strategy definition? And Kavita, that's how we connected with Kavita at that time. So Anil Sachdev, we were his clients to learn total quality management and organization design and development from him. And we were giving him support on some IT activities and things like that. So our association with some of these thoughts on how do you build an organization, how do you create a company, how do you create vision, mission, strategy, teamwork, total quality management. We are also learning simultaneously all these things. So, and then Vishnu, Arun Shekhar, Manju, Govind Singhal, Vinita Singhal, RP Singh, Krishna, Pawan Jain, you name them, hundreds of, 30, 40, 50 of them. And even today, when we get together, we remember those days. So I think I'll stop here because otherwise the story can continue.
So let me go across to Manju. Manju, I was not aware that you were also working with the company. तो क्या dinner पे आके you used to discuss lines of code और क्या कैसे होता था मतलब? You are on mute.
Unmute.
Namaste.
Namaste ji. Namaste.
Thankful. But I think today's conversation is about them four, so I
No. It
like
is
to be
important because
excused.
who's the boss at home and who's the boss in the office? That is also important.
Boss is always boss at home or in office.
अच्छा तो मुझे चलो मैं इस बार छोड़ दिया आपको मंजू कोई बात नहीं यार इसके लिए $100 लगेंगे but that's okay you know we will come back to it another time now I'll go to Arun see the thing is that I remember that in 2007 just before I was asked to build up the global delivery capability for IBM Australia and New Zealand just before that I was managing we had a large contract with Optus and we were having a delivery across 6 different countries and we had a big team from India also and we went through CMM accreditation at that particular point in time but 2006 2007 CMM was like everybody is kind of I'm CMM 5 so you could hardly differentiate it was hardly a differentiating factor but I want to go back in terms of process maturity in mid 90s or when you got that initial ranking or whatever it was. How did you see? Because you were essentially 4 different, people who founded the company. So, getting on to recognizing that process maturity is important in this industry, how did that go about happening? And this is Arun Jain.
Yeah, so I think that Yogesh mentioned that the people we named it, in our whole system of culture, there are many people who never written a resume in their lifetime. So they are a first-time joiner in the group and they remain as a part of the group in Nucleus or Polaris or Intellect. There are hundreds of people who never written a resume in IT industry. So something which we need to be looking at the part of culture. So process efficiency is an outcome of my commitment to the entire purpose for which these organizations have been built. And we have 2 or 3 practices. One practice called Lakshya practice, which we started sometime in 1990, where all the participative visioning, participative forecasting of the visioning exercise, where everybody get engaged. Second system we installed called Konark, very interesting in where we identified way back in 95, we set up a separate trust called Konark Trust. That time stock options were never there. So there was no concept of stock option. When I asked my chartered accountant that we want to have a stock option with employees, then chartered accountant said, there's no scheme here in India. So I said, why can't, so we come out with that I put a equity or we put a equity in a trust called Konark Trust and Konark Trust has an agreement with the employee on a 5 rupee paper in a form of a 5-year stock option plan. And nobody cared about the stock option till the time company went public in 1999. When we went public and it became $1 billion of that time, it was a unicorn in 1999.
Wow. But I love it that you see when you talk about at that time the concept of stock options was not there. CMM was unknown, and to be kind of foreseeing trends, it is a fabulous story. Now I want to go across to Vishnu. Vishnu, now let me come back to first to 2021. in 2021, the state of play is such that labor arbitrage is no longer, nobody kind of even talks about labor arbitrage. It is out of the window. Offshoring, rail shoring, whatever you may call it, is all commoditized. Forget about this COVID kind of a situation, which has given a big boost to the IT industry as a whole, and everybody was forecasting that this is the time of downhill for the Indian companies and all that kind of stuff. Now, but here we find that you guys are still growing. So what is the mantra?
A brilliant question, Pradeep. Once again, thanks for getting to the fundamentals through this question, I would like to say. I think the mantra is, it is India's time, and after the 200 years of servitude, we have reached a situation now, after now we're we'll be celebrating our 75th year of independence. We are now ready to claim back our position in the world that was there till the year 1700. And it's going to take us another half a century, maybe a century, I don't know how much. But that is what it is. We were fortunate enough to be there at the right time 40 years back to make a beginning. And now with the younger generation, I see Anand Agarwal here. The younger generation now all set to deliver immense value to the world. That's how I look at next few decades.
And you said it so well, because what Anand told me was, he mentioned to me, he said that I want to attend this session because I want to know as to how did these people, build up this kind of a business, and I'm actually quite proud of Anand. He's just 2017 graduate, and he's found a niche in the collection side and made such a fabulous business which is happening today. And today, apart from just collecting rupees, he might be collecting dollars. But more about Anand later on. Let me go across to Arun Shekhar. Arun, okay, so we are now heading into times where you are now thinking of some of the companies are thinking of going public. Now, how was that handled? What about the media scrutiny? What about investor expectations? What about running a company which is a public limited company, which is very different to a privately owned company? So, Arun Shekhar, what are your thoughts about that, and what are your comments on that?
I think at that point of time, we were always looking at making the company perform. We were not looking at the media so much. In fact, in today's world, most of the companies look at the media first and then look at the performance of the company.
Absolutely.
Okay. But internally, at that point of time, or rather, most of the time, we all have been focused towards making the company perform, building up the assets of the company, be it IPR, be it the other processes, and be it the manpower. So we were all the time looking at this rather than looking at the media. And as such, since when you build up this kind of assets, the media automatically gets into the action. So that is how it happened. We never looked at the stock market as to whether the companies, in 1995, when Nucleus Software Exports went to public, we never looked at the share market price of the share. We always looked at, can we make the team perform, do better? Can we build up our manpower better? Can we build up our processes and produce a software which can compete with the best in the world? And that is what exactly happened. Nucleus Software Exports built up a loan system which is largest in terms of installed base in the world. Subsequently, Polaris, which subsequently separated Arun separated the business of Polaris into Intellect Design. I mean, the focus of being able to build IPR or build an asset in the company was all the time there. It was not so much of saying, if I do this, or if I do this press conference, will my share go up? Okay. Or if the investors are asking these questions, what should be the answer which are correct to answer? So all this has been handled with the performance of the company as being the major part of the focus. And that's exactly what happened as shown.
Now I want to go to Yogesh. Yogesh, all four of you today are running something which aligns with what you guys want to do. So in a sense, the nucleus which started in early 80s is still a nucleus because there is such a great bond between all of you, and that's why we are discussing the story. But the process of how each one of you went about going in their own direction, how was that handled?
Yes, when we were growing, as anybody would expect, we had all the pains of growth too. Taking you back to 95, 94, 95, we have been 10 years. We have an operation in Singapore, Indonesia, where Vishnu is located. Arun has moved to Chennai because of a big development group in Chennai. I am based in Delhi. Arun Shekhar is in Bombay. So just to get together was a task. I mean, let me admit that. And that was a time when we started reflecting on what would be the best way going forward. It was not an easy journey. It took us almost 3 years of continuous. We would get together every month, once every weekend, every month, and would just go off. And I remember many a times it so happened that Vishnu landed up from Singapore at the airport. Arun landed up from Chennai, and I went to the airport, and we didn't know where our destination is. We went to the airport, looked at the first flight which was going out. It's going to Agra. Let's go to Agra. So I mean, that's the lighter side of it. But we spent good time together, and we realized that all of us have very unique energies and very unique vision. And how do we create a structure where everybody is able to realize his full potential? And that's what led us to reorganize, restructure, distribute, split, whatever name you want to give. But those conversations led to that. And I'm so happy that this reorganization unleashed a fresh wave of energy. So Arun went on to create Polaris, Intellect. Vishnu went on to build Nucleus Software Exports. Can you imagine starting from government quarters, from a hostel of Lady Harding Medical College to a one-bedroom flat in South Extension Part 2, a remote corner on a street which was a close-ended street, to a office with all the cattle all around in Tyagaraja Nagar. At that time, Tyagaraja Nagar was a full of cattle, and then moving on to building campus in Noida, Arun building campus in Chennai. The energy that was there in the group got unleashed during the process of this retransformation or transition. So that process that we went through, we had mentors, Anil Sachdev, we had our own mentors, advisors. So, all of us, I would say, contributed towards building this entity.
This is fabulous, and it shows the maturity of the people involved. That how the process that you went about, and even now collectively you're such a happy group and friendly group and like a family. It's fabulous to hear that. Now, one last comment from each one of you, and then Yogesh, I will ask you to sum up the discussions, and kick-starting with Arun Shekhar. Arun Shekhar, one last comment that you have for the group, and then we've got a second part of the session today. That's also very interesting. But over to you, Arun. Any message that you would like to pass on to the entrepreneurs of today, the people likes of Anand and all that kind of a thing? What lessons would you, tell them, or what kind of good practices would you have recommended for them?
I think one of the most important practice or lessons for everybody is the focus towards your own performance. Do not get carried away in today's world by the fact that somebody says there is such an equity capital coming and waiting for you. I'll throw in so much money, do this, do that. You look at what you enjoy doing it and focus on that. Build up your dreams around this and don't let your passion slow down. This is exactly what has happened. Vishnu was very, very focused creating IPR. It is there. Arun wanted to create a large company with lots of good processes and a company which sustains good values. It is there. And not only good values, but also looking at it from a different angle in terms of delivering solutions across the world, competing with the best of the world in different fields. Usually you see a company with an IPR or with a good product in one field. Intellect competes with the best in almost every field of the banking software. This is what is an achievement that happens when you are focused towards your dream. You don't let your short-term goals come in. And that is exactly what you started with the discussion in the beginning as to 35 years. You look at it from a different angle. How many entrepreneurs continue to work like this team, this group works for 35 years and it still say, I'm here for some more years. Okay. Right, Arun? How many of the people say after 40 years of working and working, how many people say I'm still working late nights and all time zones to be connected with all my team members so that I continue guiding everybody to build up this company together. This is what is an important factor.
Over to you, Arun Jain. What are your last comments, and what would you say to people like Anupama? She's doing some fabulous job in VRAR, and Anand and the likes over here.
I think there's a difference between building a company and building an institution. We need to make a choice between whether we are building an institution or building a company or building a technology. So there are three different spaces are there for young entrepreneurs. Some entrepreneur wants to do a technology build up and let the technology be best leveraged by anybody who wants to acquire the technology, or build up a company which can give a huge value, can be created by the investors. And third is the institution. So institution is, Yogesh mentioned, for the whether 100-year institution will, whether we'll be existing in 2021, 21. I think that's a question we have what is the leadership succession. But obviously for Anand and Anupama, I would not say that they have to think about that. They let them enjoy their journey of next 10 years when they are building and experiencing the world. And they should not be looking at it, what are, at our age group, we are looking Mission Samriddhi or who last us to see how the rural India can be made a difference in rural India, and how do we apply design thinking, which we applied for software development for rural India development. But I think longer term perspective of contribution, what you can make a difference to the humanity at large is something, is a simple message I want to leave it.
Fabulous. Over to you, Vishnu. What is the last message that you would like to pass on?
Yeah, I think never compromise on fundamentals. The core principles that you are living your life by, do not compromise on that, and everything else would be taken care of. There are powers which are clearly beyond us, and they take care of things.
Fabulous. So Yogesh, I would ask you to sum up and give your own comment, but I also want you to kind of talk a bit about, you see, you've been founding a lot of different companies, There has been grow talent, there's been soil and all that kind of a thing. So, what is it like? I mean, what is the inner urge? What drives you to do that?
Well, we never articulated that inner urge in that form, but I think looking back, and when I try and reflect on that, I feel that I somewhere I had an urge to help people achieve their potential or help build leadership on a very, very large scale. And so uh, the opportunities so came, they got formed in such a way. Anil Sachdev, whom I mentioned earlier, iShare Consultancy Services, who was teaching us OD TQM, when he wanted to start a HR consulting company, he invited some of the old friends, and he invited me too. And that's when I joined with him. We started the transformational company called Grow Talent, uh, and we were focused on how can we help build the next uh, level of leaders, whether it be in business, social, political, any field. That led to creation of Soil, the School of Inspired Leadership. And I think if I were to look at my own self, I get a lot of excitement when I help people, when I work with people, and when I see that my working helps them realize their potential, that gives me a kick. And that's what I enjoy doing, and I love to work with, of course, both Vishnu, Arun, Shekhar, Arun, they also work with a lot of youngsters. I mean, Arun has worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurs, they have grown to create big companies, Maverick and Adrenaline and whatnot, even IIT Chennai companies. Uh, and today Arun is doing phenomenal work in the social sector. Vishnu is doing phenomenal work in both new product development landscape or sector in the country. How do we build more software products? Arun Shekhar is contributing in his own way. So, all of us found our own sweet spot niches, and we are working. Yet, we have independent operations, but the core of it, we still remain one common, unified friends.
I think this has been absolutely a fabulous discussion, and the key message that I would, take away is, first of all, is dream big. There is no two ways about it. And the second thing is that yes, that sense of purpose and sense of values have to remain paramount. That is what really defines what the path is and the evolution of the journey. And yes, all of us will have our ups and downs kind of a thing. But I've loved the discussion today, and ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to these four people who have rightly been the trendsetters, who saw an emerging trend, saw an opportunity, converted that, collaborated, grew it up, went on to whatever the thought was in terms of whatever they were themselves passionate about, but carried the values with them and still operating like a family after 40 years. So fabulous. And we will have another follow through session later on, and I will touch base with all of you later on, but thoroughly enjoyed it. Let me now go on to the second part of the discussion. And the second part of the discussion, it is, what I really call, you see, each one of us has the ability to make a transformational difference at our own level. It is not always about, how we can rechange or change the world. Things can start small, but it's all about, what impact that has, And for this, I am delighted to introduce Sanjeev Shrivastava. And please give a big round of applause to Sanjeev. And what I want to kind of, talk about him is he has been driving an initiative which is creating a national database of assets and resources in relation to research. Not only that, but creating a platform which kind of helps demand and supply in a world where we are living in resource constraint, and how best to optimize, how best there are projects which are halfway through kind of dropped off for whatever reason can another leave of life. So please give a big round of applause to Sanjeev, and Sanjeev, let's have you across.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sanjeev,
Thanks for giving this opportunity to this platform, and I am seeing all my seniors here. Only I know Mr. Yogesh sir, when I was doing PhD, that time we were running some Youth for Equality and other initiative, and that time I met him for a long time. I'm seeing today. So thank you, sir, for giving this opportunity, and I would like to introduce about the platform, what you talked about.
but first I want to know, when were you in IIT Delhi and what did you do after that?
Yeah, see, I completed my master degree in physics from UP in one of the government college, and after that I moved to Delhi for civil services preparation, and somehow I got introduced with some professors in IIT Delhi. So I started my journey with the project job in 2000, and then after that I joined MTech in 2002 to 2004 batch. And after 1 year of gap, I joined PhD in Instrumentation Design Development Center, where I did my PhD in nanotechnology. And during my PhD, I was the PhD representative, I was the house secretary also, and did a lot of changes in the IIT. Even, you can see the water point near the library was my first initiative when I won the election as a PhD representative, because I was seeing many people who come from outside are facing problem for even drinking water, railway reservation counter, everything. I was there that time when I initiated these things, and we got it done. Many things we did. Same time when we were doing PhD, we were facing the problem of resources of getting the instrument in various labs, because if I belong to one particular lab, I will not be able to access the other lab. That kind of issues are still there up to some extent. And that time I started thinking, why not something should be there where we can see even beyond IIT where these resources are there, whether it is available or not. And I started thinking, dreaming something should happen in India. And after my PhD, I joined ISC Bangalore, and that time there was a program called Indian Nano Electronics User Program. And that program was initiated in Center for Nanoscience Engineering, where we have world-class facility. And the concept of the professors was that these facilities are made, why not it should be open to all? And that was the concept, and I was the program coordinator for that. During that program, what we did, we served all kind of researchers who were not having even single facility. We paid them the travel cost, their consumable cost, whatever is needed. Just they had to carry their idea, what they wanted to do in their PhD thesis or their research work, or even a faculty member want to execute something project in his institute. Many private engineering college, we have IITian who don't get job, they go there, but they don't get opportunity to continue their research. So we supported more than 7,000 researchers through that program in 10 years. And during the program, what I started talking, why not you people talking about sharing of the facility among each other? At least you can have good friendship and start those kind of collaboration. And I also asked those people, why not you are sharing your facility with us? What information we can put on the map? And when I found within 1 month, we got 2,200 facility in my database, and I just put a map, physical map, and shared in the Facebook. And when we get likes, we really get happy. That was the first turning point for me to go to the government. And there was a visit of the President of India in our department. Our department is really having good thing, and we are doing a lot of things for the startup, lot of things for the industry. Even we have developed the pressure sensor in our own department, which is being used in Chetak and LCA. That is our department production. So then the PSA, Dr. Chidambaram, during the visit, he was there. So I just explained, sir, we are talking about the helping student. Why not we should have a map of all the research facility which is funded by the public fund? Because this is the taxpayer money which comes in a form of grant to all the institutions. Why not? It should be open to all. Even within the department, people are not using those. I even don't know also, okay, what is there in other department. If I belong to mechanical, I don't know what is there in civil. So there should be some mechanism. And I talked, and it was so quickly, I got a report next day, next day, after he talked to the Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi, that let's have a national program on this sharing facility. And that was the turning point for me. And I got a good funding in ISC Bangalore. And we started in 2018. And you know, our Prime Minister always tried to launch within a month or some kind of thing. He told, okay, we are giving in October, we want to launch in 1st December. And we started working in that sense. And so quickly come up with the portal also. But unfortunately, we could not get it launched because of the election and busy schedule. Finally, we got it launched in 2020 on 3rd January during the India Science Congress.
So at this particular point in time, how many assets are listed on the portal?
Currently, you can go on the portal directly on www.istem.gov.in. We have got the gov.in domain also. And you can see 21,000 facilities are listed, including software and hardware. And everyone is now ready to support the researcher who need it. And there is a good payment gateway where people can pay also, and directly they can request. Those kind of
That's a very fabulous story. And this is from which parts of India? Is it
whole part of India? All 6 ways we have divided in zone: east, west, north, and all these things. All the part of India, almost all IITs, all CSIR lab, DST lab, ICAR lab, ICMR lab, all are there. And government has issued a mandate to every institution, even the DRDO and other strategic sector. If you are giving any project, you have to mandate the equipment, whatever you are purchasing from the capital, you have to put on the ISTEM portal. And also there is a circular recently given by the Ministry of Finance to optimize the usage of fund also, that if you are going to ask any equipment, first you have to give a certificate whether that costly equipment is in nearby region or not, so that you don't have to duplicate in that region. So that mandate is also issued.
Sanjeev, the issue is that moment you create transparency, then you are in a way taking people away from their power base. So was it easy to kind of get people to give information about their assets and to list them?
Yes. I would like to put that, yes, people who are at the top, they all want this kind of mechanism should be there, and they are very much supportive, I will say. It will take time. I will not say it is going to happen within 6 months or 1 year. It will take time, but people are coming with very good mentality, and they are supporting, and even they are taking their users also, and they are informing them we should have. And you know, recently, Sathi scheme was launched by the Government of India DST, and 5 labs have come. One is in IIT Delhi also, and one in IIT Kharagpur, with same concept. This facility will be available to all, and that will be the central facility.
So one side is physical assets, but what about capacity in terms of people? You know,
yes. What we are trying to convince the government as well as the institution, we are having the capacity, resources, but we don't have the manpower to run those things. So parallelly, why not we should start having the skill development course where we can have different level of skills. Like, see, I want to let you know, in ISC Bangalore Center for Nanoscience Engineering, what facility we have, what we decided, let's have the dedicated staff to each equipment. And we hired the ITI, diploma, BSc graduates who will not go for the research further, but they will concentrate on becoming the tool engineer for particular equipment. And that is really a successful model has happened, and now everyone is trying to implement in their system. Like IIT has got some nano facility, they are also trying to implement similar concept. And these people are really good in knowledge on those particular equipment where they are working day and night, and they are very much dedicated to learn that, how to run the equipment, how to explain the results. And that is very much important in the R&D.
So another issue that the research industry, not only in India but globally, faces is that, you see, research tends to be an industry where the KPIs are more in terms of, you know, how many papers you publish and how many times you are cited. So therefore, research activity can be totally abstract, which nobody even reads. So how do you get industry involved into this initiative?
You see, we are asking industry also, even in startup, we are trying to involve by providing some sort of partial funding. And we are saying, if suppose you are going to start a startup today, you don't have to worry about the infrastructure, because this is listed and you are your right is there to ask them and use that. So next day you don't have to worry immediately for the infrastructure, whether you need it, you want or not, that is different matter. But if you want something to start today, you can start. And that kind of thing is going to be changed. And what we are also saying, if a startup is coming to any facility, either it is DRDO facility or IIT facility, iSTEM has got some funding to support them for the testing those samples or whatever usage required, or even for travel from one point to other point. So in that way, we are trying to promote startups, and we are asking industry also to become part of this portal and get the support from our technical. And not only the facility usage, what we have been asked to create a panel of experts who can guide those industry at different front. So those kind of things also we have. So currently we have 300 experts who are ready to help them.
Oh, that is fabulous. So you got kind of mentors also over there.
Yes, yes.
So tell me that there have been various stages of this, or phases of this project. And I was reading somewhere that phase 1 is completed. So what is phase 1 and phase 2?
Phase 1, we got the funding to develop this portal for the country, and during that development, lot of changes happened. Even it was considered one of the transformative idea for the country by the Prime Minister office, and it was considered one of the successful program in 100-day program of Modi government too. So first phase started in 2018 of the March, and then we got finished in first phase, and we developed the portal platform, and we got database, which we got, you can see 20,000 databases there. Just recently in phase 2, what we started with the different aspects. Not only the people should go and use the facility, but those who are also working for developing the indigenous equipment, those people should get more valuable and more support from iSTEM and otherwise even the government, so that they can indigenize those equipment, whatever is needed for our country. And skill development, as I mentioned, and another part what we took in the phase 2, that we should support each and every researcher if they don't have fund. And third thing, what we are trying to connect with the service and supplier who have provided these equipment. Suppose our equipment goes down, immediately this our institution should get support, because you can see many institutions, you can see many equipments are lying idle. If it's one part has gone, nobody is going to help them. And sometimes supplier don't support those things. So we are trying to make them accountable for each thing. If you have supplied, you also have to look into that one further during the project. Another good thing what we are trying to start is the wealth to waste to wealth. What we are thinking, if we can make some kind of regional center where we can get the right of equipment, what we say, which is not further cannot be used for the research purpose, but those equipment can be used for the training purpose for those who want to learn and become tool engineer. And apart from that, what we are thinking, we should make the library of those equipment, opening it, fabricating it. First of that, all they can learn, and also they can make the accessories, library of those parts. Suppose I need for some part in new equipment which is down just because of one small thing, we can just go to the iSTEM portal and see those parts where it is available and purchase, or maybe we can ask those things and get corrected the new equipment. So in that way, we are also trying to change waste to wealth concept in the term of equipment.
Some great work which is happening. And I suppose you are at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. So is this your primary role, or what else do you, or is there some other role at IIS and you are doing this also? What is the story over there?
Earlier, I was having different roles. Apart from the INUP program, I was also looking after the other projects of the ISC, like connecting people, doing some, because, you know, we have very good facility, one of the top facility we have in the world, I will say. So that is the nano facility and one of the best characterization facilities. So I was handling those things, but currently a lot of time goes in this iSTEM phase 2. And I have more than 10, 15 staff. So I have to handle all those activity and creating awareness, creating other kind of things in the world. And recently we have started creating iSTEM virtual regional center in various colleges, so that people who are nominated can talk about the iSTEM government program and help the needy people. So those kind of things now I'm coordinating. So currently I'm fully concentrating on iSTEM.
Well, look, I am delighted, to have hosted you over there, because I think any initiative which helps in optimizing resources is commendable. But not only that, it is again setting a trend, setting a trend where we are all able to source. So I think the key message that I can take away is that, we don't really need to be, even if we start small, That is actually the key, is to start small, but to see how big an impact that you can have. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to Sanjeev. And I applaud efforts like this. And I think this is what is transforming India at the moment. With this, now we are at the end of the session today, and look forward to, and let me tell you, the session episode 18, which is on next Saturday. We'll have leaders from Harvard, leaders from Kellogg, we'll have leaders who've been directors of IITs, and many more interesting sessions. So, folks, have a lovely morning, lovely afternoon, lovely evening, lovely night. Enjoy your morning cup of coffee, or your evening cup of tea, or your evening glass of wine, or your afternoon lassi. This is Pradeep from Sydney signing off. Take care and see you next Saturday. Bye for now.
Thank you,
Very
sir.